Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Pinnacle tier in One Hub Racing, the final race of the night. I am, as always, Indecisive, and joining me this week is my pre-season commentary partner, Quinn. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to be reunited with you for Pinnacle tier, although pre-season race in Brazil didn't really go to plan, but hopefully this one can be great.
Yes, I think even the game needs a pre-season sometimes, and that was just a good example of that. But yeah, last week, if you didn't see the race, I recommend going to watch it after we're done here, of course, because all these races are rewatchable on YouTube here. And thank you everyone that's in the chat already, it's very much appreciated. But I'm going to go over the standings of last week's race first. The official results were Silly Sly Guy won the race, Beer Pappy it was in P2, Dane Star was third, Tom Robbo was fourth, Neski in P5, Only Toma in P6, Legend in P7, Zane in P8, Nepidius in P9, Arnold P10, Confessor was in P11, and Ryderdal in P12, with fastest lap points going to Silly Sly Guy, the race winner, and Ryderdal in P12. So the standings overall look like this. Sly Guy 21, maximum 21 points there. Beer Pappy 17, Dane Star 14, Tom Robbo 12, 10 to Netsky, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in that order from Toma, Legend, Zane, Nepidius, Arnott, Confessor. But because Ryderdal got the fastest lap outside the top 10, he's also on 2 points along with the Confessor. Konzo, Khalifa, Owen Wyatt, Josh, Samba, Beastas and Vienna yet to score, but it was very, very entertaining, and the Constructors is equally as entertaining as that, but we'll go through that as the session gets underway very shortly. But what are you looking forward to tonight?
Definitely looking forward to the two parts in Sector 2. You have the turn 6 and 7 and then turn 9 and 10, of course. Those two groups of corners are the hardest groups of corners on the track, and I just want to see how these drivers can handle those parts and see if any of them get caught out by the nature of the downhill braking and turning from turn 9 and 10.
Yes, definitely. That is something to definitely watch out for. It seems to be a little bit different. We used to have not many problems through there in previous games, but this one, there seems to be quite a lot of places where it can go wrong for you. And when it goes wrong very quick in the blink of an eye around Bahrain. So we need to keep an eye out on those tricky areas, especially those corners you've just mentioned. But there are also turn 1 at the start of the race. That could be absolute chaos. And of course you've got the run down to turn 4, as we both know about from earlier on tonight. And then you have turn 10, which still catches everybody out despite it being on the game for quite a while. And there's turn 11. If you touch the inside curb there, you're probably asking to lose a wheel or a wing or something. So there's very few places where this track can bite you. But just having a look, I think we are going to get ready in just a moment. The countdown starts now, and of course rain is not, it shouldn't be an issue tonight, as some of the drivers are alluded to in the pre-race press conference. They are pleased they don't have to practice and get a perfect rain setup. They can just focus on their racing and their race consistency, which is always good to know. Legend, Toma and Konzo also felt the same, but keeping an eye on Legend, he's confident of bettering last week. He's made mistakes last week, but he's good at tyre saving. And Toma thinks he was a bit cautious last week, but I think he's more comfortable around this track. Have you noticed anything in the drivers' pre-race press conferences that you want to pick up on?
I'm sorry, where is it? God. There we go.
It'll be there somewhere.
Alright. Yep. Finally got there. It's just mainly looking like everyone's well, most people, it seems like they're fairly confident just going through everything. But at the end of the day, it's like, with the nature of Bahrain, it seems that, yeah, just everyone seems fairly comfortable. There's a few people that I've seen that they've said that it isn't their most favoured track. But yeah, just mainly looking through most of the answers, it's just generally everyone seems comfortable around it, around Bahrain, and you'd expect that from being in the top tier, and most of the drivers here should be fairly good and acclimated with most of the tracks.
Yep, definitely. I'm just looking forward to seeing how this tier gets on with tracks that are not yet released. Yeah, sorry, I just thought I had no game audio for a second, which was glitching previous games, but I do have it, so that's great. I don't have to restart the stream or anything, so that is always good to know. The first on track is the Confessor, who managed to grab a couple of points last week. I'm just checking the rivalries. I'm not sure if any of them responded in this tier. I'm just going to double check. So anything on the Taz at the moment? No, everyone's just pretty much on track pretty nicely at the moment, so that's always good to see.
Yeah, looking at everyone that's on track at the moment and the tyres situation, it looks like everyone apart from Henry Khalifa and Silly, all ERT drivers, might I mention, they're all on the mediums. So you'd expect that from people like Silly and Khalifa, of course. Of course you'd expect it from someone like Silly, as Confessor has left the lobby. I'm not too sure why that's happened, but we will continue. I'm just on board with Silly, as he will be the first person across the line. So, Mackie, if you want to take us through Silly's lap, then let's do it.
Well, absolutely do that. You've got to find the right braking point into turn one. It's about 75 metres for some. Some can go a little bit later, but he seems to go nicely through 1 and 2. You can invalidate there as you run a little bit wide, but so far he seems to be keeping it nicely between the lines, just about enough of the tyres on the track anyhow. This is also a tricky point for invalidations, but he's no surprisingly gone purple through sector 1, as he's the first one through there at speed, so he seems to be having a pretty decent lap. And of course, as you alluded to, he is on medium, so he will go quicker later on in the session. Well, I presume he will. If you can't go quicker on the softs, there's something wrong with I don't know, but yeah, it opens the DRS nicely as he comes down into the tricky turn 11 and 12 combo I was talking about earlier. The auto spin curves, if you're too aggressive with them, you will end up in the wall. I think I may have said 11 earlier when I meant 12, which is this turn here, but he's having no such problem there. Purple through sector 2 again, as you would expect, and just pretty much a low resistance from the end of sector 2 to the line. It's just a lot of full throttle. Pick your braking zone nicely there through the final corner, get on the power, get to the DRS line, open that, activate that, and cross the line with a 25.9. That is a good effort for the first lap of the session.
Yeah, it was very, very solid lap from Silly. Just, I feel like maybe taking it a bit easy, but also just making sure he's pushing. Henry is less than a tenth behind him, so got some decent pace from these two at the moment. Let's see, next person to cross the line, I think, is Netsky. Let's see what lap he can put in, and it's a 1:24.8, a great lap from Netsky. Of course he is on the soft, so and Wyatt goes just under 5 tenths slower than Netsky, so Netsky already put in a stamp of authority. As I say that, Zane crosses the line and just goes 1/100th slower. So seems like two people have already just put their stamp on this race by in their first lap getting into the 24s, which is insane.
Yeah, that is definitely called throwing down the gauntlet to see what everybody else has, but that is an impressive time from Netsky early on in the session, and he did this quite a lot last season. His early times turned out to be good enough, but he would still go on and beat them anyway, because that's how confident he was last season, and that's how he went about lifting a trophy. But this is an entirely new season, so that will be firmly in the past, and he's just focused on what he can do right now, as Arnott is getting a little bit of help from his ERT teammate with a little bit of slipstream as he comes down to the final corner. But how close to pole position can he put it, the Alpine? Let's see as he goes around the final corner, and he will get a little bit more slipstream. That's very good. I think he's following for more, and he goes into P4 with a 25.2. I think he can find time. It looked like he was a little bit slow through Sector 1 according to the TAS, but nevertheless, let's see what Nepidius can do in the McLaren as he comes around the final corner.
Yeah, there's so Nepidius, let's see, 125.014, so a decent lap from Nepidius. Just looking through all of the sector times that we have, Toma actually has purple first sector, then it's Nepidius with a purple middle sector, and of course it's Netsky with the fastest sector 3. So it's fairly spread amongst the top 4, but of course Netsky sitting pretty on top at the moment. As I said, only 1/100th faster than Zane, and just looking down, we have both Silly and Henry both coming out on a new set of soft tyres, which, based on their positions at the moment, it makes sense that they would be going out on softs, because looking at all of the drivers we have left to set laps, the chances of them staying inside the top 10 aren't that likely. But yeah, just Silly's moving out of the way, I believe, to let Samba through, hoping to maybe get a little slipstream from his ERT teammate. But speaking of ERT, they are one of our partners for the league. Of course, they are partnered by sponsoring the ERT Going Gets Tough award, and our other partner for the league is Vespertine, who will be supporting our championship prizes. And then going through our sponsors for the league, we have Next Level Racing, who will be providing an NLR direct drive stand to our driver of the season, which is an award we are providing for this season. And we also have 3M Sim Racing, who will be providing a pair of sim gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps.
Yep, that's good news for Netsky, who's currently gonna add a pole position to that time, but the fastest lap's good. Anything can happen, any circumstance can happen, and Vienna is going to set a time, even though he did invalidate. I think he wanted to see where that would put him. 24.9 would have put him, I think, P3, so that was an excellent effort there, but unfortunately he just slid a little bit wide as you were talking about fastest laps.
Yeah, so just looking, let's watch over Samba at the moment as he's just going up to turn 9 and 10. Let's see, of course with the nature of the corner he can take quite a wide entry as he does here, gets it hooked up very well through turn 10. He does have someone in front of him, I think that is Henry, so maybe Samba can get a little slipstream, even though he might be too far behind him. Let's see what his sector 2 time is. He's on a 104.1 with the combined sector 1 and 2 times. So I'm not sure where this would put him at the moment. He takes the last 2. He has a little bit of a squirrely back end going through second to last corner. Let's see where it puts him. Only P8 at the moment behind his teammate Arnaud, but Sly Guy goes even faster on the softs. He goes nearly 3 tenths faster than Netsky. What a brilliant lap from Silly, and we've just come to expect this from him now, haven't we?
We have, yeah. I think that's just going to be the story of the season in qualifying. Is going to be Silly Sly Guy versus Netsky. But you were talking about Arnaud there and Samba and all those. I think they are both in the same car, Arnaud and Samba. Yes, they are. I mentioned it earlier, but the rivals this week between Arnaud and Khalifa. As yet, neither driver has responded. I don't know if there's been issues with that, as we've had in the Discords. People say they couldn't respond to certain things, but Samba, I was watching him earlier, he did a good lap, but I think he can improve because he wasn't using the maximum fuel that we are allowing drivers to use in the session. He was in lean mix somehow. I don't know how that's happened, but anyway, that's what he was in when he set his lap, but he's definitely got time to find. But back to Arnaud and Khalifa. They had a bit of a rough ride last week. Arnaud was asked, is Khalifa's rare mistake, which saw him register and even round DNF, dented his confidence? I think I would have said possibly. I think any driver that has a bit of an off, whether it's their fault or not, their confidence is naturally going to take a bit of a hint, whether they'll say so publicly or not. I think it's just the nature of drivers, and that happens. But Khalifa was asked about Arnaud being in a couple of incidents which weren't necessarily his fault. Does that also dent his confidence a bit? And I think from that point you could have said, yeah, I think try to take your line and drivers just aren't giving you the space that you think you deserve. That's always going to play with your head a little bit, because I know it's happened to me when I first started here racing in one hub racing. I don't know if it's happened to you, but I'm sure it's probably just human nature to doubt yourself. Is there something you've done wrong, even though at the time you feel like you haven't? So that was the rivalry questions there, which are as yet unresponded to, but it's always good to link that, because if you are nominated for that, you are in with a chance of winning the ERT Go and Get Stuff award, as you mentioned earlier. It's for all drivers that attend all their races. They don't necessarily have to finish the race, but they attend races and they answer all their media obligations. That is what the ERT Go and Get Stuff award is for, and it's a very cool prize to win. And yeah, it's an amazing addition to the league, but we'll talk more about the sponsors again a little bit later on, as I'm watching the Confessor, who seems to be back in the session now in the Red Bull, and he's pushing it very close to the limits there as he comes through turn 11, and now he's into turn 12, and let's see what kind of sector times he's got in the locker as he comes through there. Starts sector 3. Where will this put him? I'm just having a quick look. It's going to be a few tenths off pole position through sector 2. Sector 1's there or thereabouts, so I think he's going to slot nicely in the top 6 if he doesn't make any mistakes coming around the final corner. Gets the power down nicely, and that is exactly P6.
Yeah, it's a great lap from Confessor, showing what he's about. Of course, coming back to one hub after some time away and putting himself amongst everyone, just showing, look, I know I've been just saying, like, I've been away for a while, but I can still hang with the best of you.
Yeah, absolutely, and his teammate Owen White also had some time away from racing in the league, and he's also back, so they could be a very good team to watch this season, as they're both back and looking to prove that they still have what it takes to be in the top tier, which they do, because that's what Quali Night was for. They are here for a reason, and I'm looking forward to seeing how all of these drivers do around this racetrack, as Dane Starr has retired from the session. I think that's in the pit lane though, so that is fine. And we are down to, I'd say the time, but it's covered up by yellow flags, so just under 4 minutes to go of the session. Dane Starr feels he can't go any quicker, and maybe he's wanting to drop outside the top 10 to start on the mediums, perhaps try the alternate strategy. Of course, I'd say maybe be in a position for rain, but usually we don't have rain around here. It's only in the name of the track.
Yeah, not sure if we've gone through it, but just looking through the stewards' results from the previous round. Of course, we had an incident between Arnaud and Zane that was deemed as a racing incident. Then we had between Arnaud and Confessor, which was a 5-second penalty towards the Confessor. which was the only two that was in Pinnacle, and then, of course, we had no no TAS infringements from Pinnacle tiers, so everyone's behaving in that respect.
Yes, and also no ready up penalties as well, so they really get it in this tier. They may not necessarily want much to do with the media, but when it comes to racetrack, they have pretty good knowledge of the rules here, and that's always what you want to see. You hate to see a driver sweat and then just have their positions taken away because they've done a simple mistake at the race by readying up too early, or they didn't have the TAS on. But as you say, none of these drivers have done that, so that is always good to see.
Yeah, of course, we do have the TAS system in place for OneHub, which is produced by our good friend here at OneHub, T-Bar. It's such a useful system to have, just having more details, a more in-depth look at all of the intricate details that happen in league racing. So big thank you for T-Bar for providing this amazing system for us to use in this league.
Yes, absolutely, and it's not just us commentators that get to use it as well. The drivers will be sent there telemetry after every race to see what they did well, what they did less well, and perhaps where they're losing out to their teammate, just like they would do in real life. You say you're 310 solid and you take it in this corner, try maybe doing it this way another time, but it's such a cool tool for us to utilise, and as you say, thank you to the man that I created it and implemented it here in OneHub. It's very, very helpful, and we appreciate everything you do, and I don't think you get enough of a shout out, so that few moments was for you, sir. Thank you for the TAS. Vienna's just gone P3.
I was just on board with Vienna there, and his lap, he hooked it together so well, and to put himself into P3 was a big statement from him. Put himself above the likes of Netsky and Toma. It's really cementing why he should be considered to be, well, everyone's a top driver in here, but why it should be at the top of the pack here.
Yes, of course, and we are just ticking down into the final 40 seconds thereabouts of the session, so if you're not on track now, you're not going to be able to set another lap, but of course everyone that's still running in this session is either on a lap or on track, about to start a lap. At the moment I am on board with Napidius, as your pictures will tell you, and he's approaching turn 11 at the 50 metre mark. He's definitely taking it different to how some of these other drivers are taking those few corners there, and I think it looked like at one stage he was going to lose it, and he's just run wide there, and I think that was a result of the couple of corners he'd taken beforehand, slightly too deep I think, but we'll see what his time does in the end. If it gets him up there, that's the last time I'll think, oh no, he's going to abandon his lap and goes into the pits. Maybe he's trying to hope, like Dane Starr, that he gets knocked outside of the top 10 to start on a better tyre. Of course, those that set their fastest lap on the softs in the top 10 will have to start the race on that tyre, and Zane is invalidated his final lap of the session, so he cannot start in pole position. He's going to cross the line to see what he would have done. It would have put him there, actually. It would have put him provisionally pole. That's annoying when that happens, but let's find who's going to cross the line now. I'm on board with the Confessor, who's just in Sector 3. I think there's a couple of drivers ahead of him, but let's see how far up Confessor can take us in the final moments of qualifying, as he takes the final corner quite nicely and dabs the power. Sly Guy's gone even quicker. Of course he has. Of course he has. And Confessor improves to P5 there. Now Toma is just behind him. Would he get a bit of a distant tow? And he does. He crosses the line P4 with a 24.6, which is 20 thousandths off third place there. So that's a great lap from him. And Henry's just popped it into P6, and I think Konzo is not going to finish his time. So that is qualifying over, and we have Silly Sly Guy on pole position here in the Pinnacle tier.
Yeah, there's really not really a surprise to see Silly up there. He's just over 2 tenths quicker than Zane, which you just expect from someone like Silly, but just running through the grid as it is, we have Silly Sly Guy in P1, and joining him on the front row is OP Zane. Reading down the order, we have Vienna in P3, Toma in P4, Netsky and Henry occupying the third row, then Confessor, Samba, Tom Robbo, Arnold, Napidius, Dainstar, Owen White, Konzo, and Khalifa rounding off the grid. It's quite weird seeing Khalifa quite down low.
I was also looking at the times between each. I think that the whole field separated by less than a second. That is absolutely insane around here. That is just... This tier is going to be on fire this season, honestly. All tiers have the capabilities of doing that, but this one in particular, qualifying is going to be anyone's guess of how they get on in the race is going to be entertaining for us here, and hopefully everyone that's watching, and thank you to those that are in the chat right now watching along with us. Good evening, we see you. Thank you for your support, and very much support for all different drivers, which is awesome. Like if you can, it's brilliant, but enjoy the race while you're here. We appreciate you being here, and usually I'd say about strategy and weather and stuff, but as we covered earlier, there is no weather here. It's just clear and a dry race, which we can expect. Now let's just see if anyone, I don't know if we can actually see it in spectator mode at the moment, if anyone registers up early. No, we don't, because usually before we could see the names in the corner, but now we don't see that. So if anyone's been naughty, that's up for the drivers to report, but I can only assume that they haven't been.
Yeah, so just going over strategy options. Of course, for people qualifying outside the top 10, you could be seeing medium, soft, which I believe all of the people starting outside the top 10 will be starting on the mediums. Let's just check the tyres. Yep, everyone outside the top 10 is starting on the mediums, so you'd expect maybe you can see a one-stop from medium to hards, but it's not really desirable. Safety cars can always ruin it. Henry's already been disqualified from the session.
That's certainly ruining things, but you say mediums hard. You can't really do that here because we, of course, in one hub are mandatory 2 stops. Yeah. So you can pull that off if you want to, but your up wouldn't count.
Maybe you can do a medium hard and then on the last lap switch to soft.
Yeah, yeah, you could definitely do that. It's possible.
It's not desirable, but you can definitely do that.
It's certainly not what you'd want to think about going into this. You don't want to touch the hards unless you can possibly help it. If there's a massive incident turn 1 and there's an early safety car, why not go for it? But I would expect an indication of soft, medium, soft, or soft, medium, medium, or medium, soft, soft, or medium, medium, soft, depending on what you're starting on. So that is, I think, all tyre options covered. Of course, throw some hards in there, why not? I wouldn't be surprised. But you have to do everything you can to try and get ahead. Well, we have a few moments. I realised I didn't go through the constructors. I was going to focus on it, but there's so much happening that I completely forgot, so I will do that in a second. Now we've covered that. Before we do that, have you got any inklings as to who can be up there for driver of the day? Who do you think is going to come from the back, potentially?
I think people like Owen White and Dainstar are definitely a couple people to look out for starting P12 and 13. I think they can, if they get their strategy right and knowing the pace of both of them, they can definitely finish in, I'd say, top 8, top 10. I think it's definitely a possibility for those two.
Yes, and as you see on the screen, it's powered by Amazon Web Services, is what the game predicts some of these drivers will be doing, which of course they may or may not do, but in a second we are going to be going here at Bahrain, and we're just waiting for everyone to get into their grid start, and the Khalifa is the last of those, which is weird to say that. He usually goes to the undercut, but today I don't think he'll be doing that as we have a weird camera angle. And there we go. 4 lights, 5 lights, and we are on the way in the Bahrain Grand Prix in the Pinnacle tier, and that is a great start from Sly Guy. Now Vienna is up into P2. Now who's going to come into turn 1 ahead of all the other cars? I think it's going to be Sly Guy, but Vienna's not giving up P2 that easily. You've got Zane on one side and you have Netsky on the other, and this is 3 wide, and that is just incredible driving already, and there's a yellow flag. People have to be careful there. I think there's been some damage, and there's Nepidius is at the back there. I wonder what caused that. I think maybe he just had a bit of a slow start. Perhaps he had a spin at turn 1, because those curbs can be vicious. But there we got another spinner. We got Vienna into the wall, and Vienna is off. That could cause a safety car, or at least a virtual. It's definitely yellow flags. Let's see how this race goes, and that's unfortunate for Vienna. We have all the drivers slowing down to full course yellow by the look of it. Nepidius seems to be struggling to get back up to speed there. I'm not sure what the ruling is on this. It's just yellow flags from what I can see. If there's a safety car, I can't see it, so if you have information, please tell me what it is.
Just looking through the damage, I do believe, well, there was contact between Confessor and Nepidius, and I do believe that is what caused Nepidius to spin, but it doesn't appear that he's got any major damage as it is. So he got very lucky coming out from that unscathed.
Yes, he did. I've just seen it on the Taz. It is a virtual safety car, but the screen does not show that, and that's why we have Taz. And there's going to be a gluttony of people switching off the softs under VSC conditions, which of course we can't really blame them, because you lose less time doing that. But while there's a virtual safety car, we have Alfa Romeo at the front of this race and in the standings with 33 points. Then you have Williams in second on track, and also in the constructors. This is 10 the pattern. Guess who's third? Nope, not Ferrari. It's Aston Martin, and then Ferrari are fourth, Mercedes, Haas, Alpine, Red Bull, AlphaTauri and McLaren yet to score. So the constructors is all over the place a little bit. It's going to type, and I'm just, this race really hurts. So there you go. Thomas put on the hards we were talking about. Virtual safety car is over, and Nepidius is not in the lead. What is going on? Did everybody pit?
It's timing glitch, yeah. I believe.
I'm going to assume it's Sly Guy still.
Yeah, Arnold and Tomo, the people who gone on to the hards, so they're doing me proud by not making my sentence about going on to hards seem stupid.
Well, that's what we're for. The drivers make us look stupid all the time, and we get our own back by giving them a commentator's curse. We don't do it on purpose, but it evens out. Anyhow, this race has got off to a solid start, and very early drama, which sort of helps, but I'm just, the hards will come good in about lap 15 onwards. If you're still on them, you will find all kinds of pace there. ZRT Henry is quickest driver out there at the moment, but we haven't had much racing laps to prove otherwise at the moment. But the hards, as I say, they'll come good the longer the race goes on, but at the moment it's not going to end well for them, but they could come into place and get some much needed points later on in the race. And let's check in with the guys you picked at the start, Dane Starr and Owen White. They're up to P6 and P7 respectively, both still on the mediums. Didn't feel the need to pit early on, which I don't blame them. They're on the mediums. I'm not really shocked that the top 5 didn't pit from their softs either. How about you?
Yeah, just the top 5, especially Silly, Zane and Netsky, even, well yeah, all of the top 5, their pace is just leaps and bounds. I think those 5 are definitely going to be in the top 5 in the driver standings from the end of this season. But yeah, I'm not really surprised that those 5 didn't pit. I'm just looking down, there's still 4 drivers on the mediums who haven't pit. Of course, the 2 drivers that I mentioned at the start, Owen White and Dane Starr, and then we have Khalifa, who started from the back, and he has, well, he started from the back in P15 and he's already gained 7 positions. And we also have Nepidius, who's gained 2 positions from P11. So all 4 of those drivers who are still on the mediums they started with they're really putting themselves in a good position to have good points finish it.
Yes, they absolutely are, and this race is hotting up as drivers are going quicker and quicker all the time. I noticed Sly Guy was lighting up the Taz, and he's at it again. after he just lost fastest lap of the race. He's going to go for it again, but there is a massive entertaining battle I can see here. Henry, Samba, Neski and Zane all within a front wing or two of each other, and this could get really, really good really quick as they go into turn 10, which is still a problem, but they all negotiated pretty well in the dirty air, especially. That's pretty good, and that's where it could go wrong with the dirty air, of course. Around here is absolutely horrific, especially in the quicker corners, which we're coming to now through there. But Zane shouldn't have any issues as he's the lead car in this little train, so he should be able to negotiate them pretty much unscathed. As I'm just looking at the TAS as well, there's battles further on, but right now we are going to stay on board with these 4 cars as they come around the final corner pretty much together, and let's just see who's going to be brave to make a move into turn 1 perhaps, which is a great opportunity, but no one seems close enough at the moment. They will have DRS, as you can see. Samba is definitely gaining, but Netski's going to go for it on Zane into turn 1. A little bit of a contact, but nothing major, and that is Netski up into P2, who qualified outside the top 4. I think he was 5th, so that's good to see Netski back where he's been so long. And you got Samba going around the outside there. That's Zane's got mugged there. He's down into P4 all of a sudden. What's going on there? He must be just perplexed.
Yeah, just going through turn 4, he was pushed off the track a little bit, maybe not by Samba, but he's still in the P4, he's still ahead of Henry, so not all hope is lost for Zane as it is. Just looking further down the grid though, we've got quite a good battle forming between Khalifa and Danestar. I think at one point Khalifa was less than 3 tenths behind Danestar, but because of the nature of the flowing corners of this track, it's so difficult to follow. But yeah, this is definitely a battle that can definitely go the whole race between Danestar and Khalifa, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it did, but of course, just off the front of that battle is Owen White. They're not a million miles away from him either, so if they can find a little bit of pace, they could well be in a 3-car battle for that position there with Owen Wyatt. So keep an eye on that. But back to the front again, Henry's now on the back of the train with Zane, Samba and Neski. They seem to be just going at it as hard as they can, and Samba's just extreme left of the track, and that opens the door for Zane to get through into turn 3 or 4. Anyway, Zane is now up into P3. He's recovered off the last lap, and that's what you need to do in any tier really. Just if you get overtaken, just put it to the back of your mind and focus on the next lap and just drive corner by corner, which is a very good play. And Zamba has a little bit of a rear slide as he comes out of the corner, but no harm done on this occasion. Henry is putting the pressure on though, and DRS down this straight is going to be crucial for Samba to keep ahead of Henry, but the RT boys are probably not going to make it easy for the others, and they are extremely closely matched as you saw in quali. But Zane is now falling off the back of Netsky just a little bit with the dirty air, but Netsky of course went a little bit wide there, so he's opened the door back for Zane to possibly try and make a move into turn 1. But I don't know at this point how powerful the DRS is going to be for him, how much battery he's going to be using. Let's have a look. Yes, Zane has more, and Neski's going to go for the earlier stop, and let's see if that pays dividends. And someone else in the background, I think it's Samba pits as well. Yes it is. So this race just came alive.
Yeah, definitely. Just going for the early stop, going for the undercut on Zane and Henry respectively. But let's see, I imagine their tyres would be around, I'd say, mid-40s, maybe 50s at this point, because of the nature of the soft tyres, so they still have some life in them. As I say that, Henry puts in a purple first sector, so yeah, it still looks like Henry's got enough juice, he's still got enough life in those tyres as he puts in purple first sector. He is less than half a second, well, as I say that, it becomes more than half a second behind OP Zane. But I'm gonna hop on board with Netsky and Samba and just see, they do have a lot of traffic ahead of them in terms of Robbo, Konzo and Napidius, so maybe this will hold up as Netsky goes for a dive on Napidius. And he gets it done without any contact, I believe, so great move from Netsky to dispatch of one of the McLarens. Just up on board with Samba now as he's on the back of Napidius right now as Silly pits, and Zane, I believe, stays out with Henry. As it is at the moment, Samba and Napidius have a little bit of contact, but Samba gets the move done down the inside. So Netsky and Samba already dispatching of the traffic ahead of them, and hopefully it'll be enough.
Yes,
so,
it could be.
Yeah.
But Henry's in the lead, and I was focused on the as you were talking about the tyres, they did just tick over into the 50% when you were talking about them, but Zane's front left has just ticked to 60%, so I'm pretty sure he will be pitting on this lap as Henry. I don't know what's going on with him, but he says he's on 0% tyres, even though he's on 7 lap hold, so I don't know what's happened. There's a bit of a glitch, of course there is, but yeah, the Taz is shaking like it's confusing, but I believe he's on the same age tyres as Zane, so he should be about 60% front left as well. We'll see when he pits. I think it should be this lap, which puts Owen White temporarily into the lead of this race. If he does pit now, of course, that will happen, but with these guys, you never know when they're going to pit, and that's what makes it so interesting and exciting.
Yeah, just looking at the gap from the leaders compared to everyone else, I think they're staying out, which is playing more into the hands of Netsky and Samba, you'd say. Just because their Henry and Zane's tyres are going to be close to dropping off that metaphorical cliff. But just, yeah, they're going to get close to dropping off the cliff, and Netsky and Samba, they're going to be trying to push forward as much as they can. As Netsky gets a move done on Konzo down the pit straight fairly easily on the mediums, and yeah, he's making light work of everyone. Of course, the next person ahead of Netsky is Silly, and he is a good 5 seconds ahead, so Netsky's going to have to, I think, in this situation where you've got such a big gap to Silly, you can almost not really cruise, but go. Of course, you'll still have to defend from Konzo behind, but you can almost just maybe preserve tyres a little bit, not go as hard on the traction zones and the braking zones, just sort of hang back, maybe refill your ERS, as I say that Netsky's on about 80%, so you won't need to do that, but yeah, just because you've got such a big gap towards yourself and Silly, you can sort of take it easy a little bit from now.
Yes, he certainly can. He's on the fresher mediums, which is good for him, and Zane stayed out there, but Henry pitted, so I'm interested to see what is going on with Zane. Like, how far can he take these tyres? Surely not much longer. He's on lap 10, so he's done at least one lap of qualifying, so he's probably got 12 lap old soft tyres, which are not great, are they, really, at this age? 72% front left, it's getting to puncture territory, so he's going to be sort of closing his eyes every time he hits a little bit of a curb and a little bit of a braking zone, that his tyre just doesn't delaminate or anything. But I think Owen Wyatt is probably going to assume the race lead for a brief period at this stage, but Netsky's up into P6 ahead of Konzo and Samba there, so that is I guess a good start for him, but it's not where he'd want to be. But I think at this stage it would put him at P2, which is very, very profitable from where he started, and he seems to be pulling away as well.
Oh, Zane's got puncture.
I believe I've just called that unintentionally, but yes, that's exactly what's happened, and that is why I was surprised when he didn't pit. But yeah, that's one lap too many. At the end you might get away with it, but not with these heavy cars,
and
he's
5-second penalty. That's
it's
unfortunate for him. He was just pushing a bit too hard on those tyres, and the front left is always going to take a punishment around here, and fortunately you saw it here, and there wasn't any damage to his car, so it's not going to drop back too far, you'd imagine. But as you say that, he drops behind Samba, drops behind Henry, Tom Robbo. It's just gone from bad to worse for Zane at the moment, but we're not even halfway through the race. So much more can happen, but with this 5-second penalty to his name, it's not looking very promising for Zane at the moment.
It's really not, but I think a positive from that puncture is it happened in Sector 3, and there's not much braking to be done there, so he could pretty much just coax it back, and that's probably why he's out in the top 10. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2. Is that an Alpine
Samba
facing the wrong way? Okay, yeah. Samba's having issues there. He's just been passed by Dane Stars. He's just had less momentum, so Dane Star just uses the better tyre and the momentum to squeeze past down into turn 10, but then you have the Confessor, Atoma, and Epidius right behind there as well, so Samba has to be careful here. And just looking at everyone's tyres, everyone seems to be okay now, apart from, for some reason, Taz says Henry still has 0% wear on any tyres. I don't know what's going on with it, but
yeah,
Owen White's now in the pit.
It said that Henry retired right at the start of the race, but of course he didn't. Which is a bit weird, and do believe there's one person who hasn't got that's public.
Yeah.
Which I believe is actually Samba.
It is. I've noticed that as well. So that's not good for him. So we were praising them for not talking to the media and doing everything upright on and off track, but apparently, what do I know? I'm surprised we didn't see that in qualifying though, if I'm honest, because I'm pretty sure it did come up with his name earlier, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but as we were talking about that, Owen Wyatt came out of the pits, and he came out literally millimetres away from Samba.
Oof.
So he was fortunate enough to not have an incident there, but Owen Wyatt and Danestar made up some good positions here.
They have.
My pre-race picks have come off well here. They both made up 5 positions, with Khalifa pitting. You'd imagine that would be 6 positions each. But yeah, both of them are going very solid, and hopefully those two they're both on the soft tyres, which maybe they're doing a medium or a little bit of a moment from Owen Wyatt on the curb. But yeah, as I was saying, maybe they're doing a medium soft strategy.
Yeah, it looks like that.
It is, yeah.
Danestar's quickest out there at the moment on the soft tyres, but of course Owen White's going to have the monster DRS, and he's just going to breeze past into turn 1. But can he come back? No, he's got the move done there, and Danestar just follows him through the corner, follows round, and just going to stay in the slipstream of Owen. And now he will have the DRS opportunity, but he's nowhere near close enough to get it done into turn 4. But yellow sector 1, just trying to find out why. Tom has had an incident. Okay, yeah, Arna's going to get back past him, is he? No, not quite enough track.
I think he nearly did a Mazepin there, just spinning on the curb of turn 2. Which is not what you want to see.
It's not, but it's easily done, especially when you're trying to push that a little bit more than perhaps you should, especially if your tyres are, I was going to say cold, but they're 10 lap old, so he should really be in the wheelhouse now for them to start performing. So I think maybe he's just tried to push a little bit too hard. But we have a tremendous battle here for Danestar Owen, who's going to try and get past Tom Rowo, and in fact he does get past Tom Rowo into P5. This is a great drive and looking good for my fantasy team at the moment. He is my Pinnacle driver, which is always difficult to pick because you never know who's going to have the form. But Owen is the quickest man out there at the moment, and that is looking good for me.
Just looking at Danestar as well, he's trying to get a move done on Tom Robbo, gets so close to rear wing of Owen, and then Confessor.
Oh no.
Confessor and Nepidius have a serious... Actually, it's Nepidius speeding in the pit lane, I believe, and then Confessor must have collided with him as he was slowing down. So both of them currently have a 5-second penalty to their name. And
Dainstar! Oh wow, he's... Oh, that's a little bit naughty to reset like that. I think there's an end plate there for someone else's car. He just hit that.
Yeah.
But here comes Samba. He's gonna be... Yeah, that's...
I'll have to have a look at this. I do believe it's Tom Robbo.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. I thought it was. But I didn't see it properly. So yeah, and there's... you can see he's... Yeah, just look at the background there. He's got all sorts of damage there. So that's... I don't know if that's anything to do with Dainstar there. It's just had a separate incident, but it didn't look great. Resetting the track, it's not great, but...
I think it may have been the collision. Yeah, he completely hasn't got front wing from Robbo.
Yeah.
It was very naughty from Dainstar to...
It was.
Reset the track like that.
It really was.
Very naughty from him.
But I guess when you're having an incident, sometimes you just don't think, and you just want to do everything you can to keep the car, but unfortunately, sometimes you reset the track when you're not supposed to. Luckily, I don't think he caused that much problems other than Weisbacher, but Arnold is having a terrific run on him here, and let's just see if he can get anything done into turn 1. Is he going to run out of room? I think he's just about run out of road into turn 1, but that is a brave effort from Arnold, who's come from nowhere and almost taken P8 from Toma there, but he's going to try again. They're both on hard tyres, so they're going to go quite deep into this race, possibly another 6 or 7 laps, and they're going to have a bit of fun at the end on the softs potentially. That's what I ended up doing earlier in Prospect, which you can watch on YouTube after we're finished here, of course. Yeah, let's just find a battle for a position. Netsky and Henry seems to be one of the closest battles, although Konzo and Arnold there down. Let's actually have a look at that. There's someone in the wall there. Samba's out. Or, as Taz refers to, player 0. I think he's out of the race. Yeah, player 0 is out of the race, which we know is Samba, and that has not caused a safety car as far as I'm aware. They still look like they are pretty much gunning through the corners, and Arnold is right behind Toma there as well. So we are 15 laps into this race, and so much has happened already, but plenty more could still happen in the second half of this race. I'm really intrigued to see who comes out on top of this race at the end, and Arnold takes to the pit lane. Seems to be a pretty late decision there, but we will see. But Owen Wyatt is up into P4 at the moment. Just seems to be having a little bit of pressure from Zane there, who you mentioned he was battling coming out of the pit lanes a few laps ago. Well, that battle is still going on, and I've forgotten how to talk. I'm so excited.
I've just seen Confessor has spun whilst going around the last corner, and he is coming into the pits for a wing change. He does have another 5-second penalty to add to his first one, so he is currently on 10 seconds, and he is serving his first 5-second penalty in the pits. As just hopping on board with Nepidius at the moment, he is right on the back of Arnaud as Owen Wyatt gets 3-second time penalty for, I'd imagine, extending track limits, which is unfortunate for Owen Wyatt. But going back to this battle for P11, Nepidius is still about half a second behind Arnaud, which I'd say it's a bit too big of a gap to make a move, as Konza, I believe, was causing a yellow flag at turn 1. But yeah, you'd expect someone like people like Arnaud, Tom Robbo and Khalifa to be maybe like competing towards maybe the top of the midfield, or maybe even the top points paying positions. But just looking at what's happened in Sector 2 is Zane, he's gone for a spin around turn 6 and 7. I mentioned this before the race, guys. What are you doing?
It's almost like they weren't listening, which yeah, they should, because you've called it bang on twice now tonight. So I think you're doing a great job. And yeah, I'm filtering through the field, so apologies to the chat if I'm not focusing on the driver you want to see right now, but there's battles all over the place, so I cannot possibly know what's going to happen next. And Konzo's just having a bit of a... There's a comment in the chat about what happened to Konzo. He seems to be having a bit of an adventure today. He's not having the best of times, but he's currently holding steady in P7. I was looking at the pit stops a few moments ago as well, and I think it was the top 5 yet to make their second stop, but everybody else I think has. So at the moment, weirdly the net race leader of this is actually Zane, I think, if I was reading it correctly. Pit stops, yes, no, yes, no, it would be Konzo. I'm blind. I need glasses. I'm wearing them. I need new ones. I need new eyes. I need everything. What is going on? I'm having a nightmare tonight.
Yeah, just looking at the gaps to the leaders, you can really see that Silly, his overall pace, he's just pulling away from everyone around him. As we do have a little battle for P2 as it is between Henry Netsky and Owen Wyatt, but unfortunately Owen Wyatt has that 3-second time penalty to contend with. Just looking a bit further down the order, we have Nepidius getting very close to the rear end of Arnaud. I do believe we just saw Tom Roy get a 3-second time penalty, but this battle for P10 is really hotting up between Arnaud, Nepidius and Toma. But yeah, we are into the last 10 laps of this race. How do you see these last 10 laps paying out, as Henry just... Sorry to interrupt a little bit there, but Henry and Owen Wyatt are having a little scrap going down into turn 4, and Owen Wyatt going into P3 as it is. Konzo and Danestar. Danestar's actually in the pits there. I'm not sure if he's doing his second stop, but yeah. Konzo is now up into P6. As I was saying before, in the last 10 laps, how do you see this playing out? Of course, it's probably one of the hardest tiers to predict, as we both know, but how do you see these last 10 laps playing out?
Well, I think it's going to play out pretty much the same as what we've already seen. You're going to have a few battles here and there, and then you're going to have... Sly Guy seems to be running away with it. I think he's half machine, that boy. Honestly, he's... is there anything he can't do in an F1 car? Like, he's just so consistent, so quick. It's a little bit unfair sometimes when you see how quick he is in qualifying over the others, but of course the race pace is also helping too. But this is a terrific scrap for P2 now, as it is. Owen Wyatt just pits for the second time, so he's going to drop down the order a little bit, but let's see what tyres he goes on to do the final stint of the race. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, but he's got such a lead that he could probably come out, I think possibly he might come out P6, you know. If maybe 5 or 6 he's done his stop. Let's just see where he comes out. We have Konzo just passing the pit entrance now. On White is at pit exit, so it's going to be nowhere near as close as I thought it would be. That is on White in P5 on the softs. He can have a massive charge, but as long as he keeps it on the road, that is a terrific score for my fantasy team in this tier, which is what I need. It's always the tier that lets me down because I always choose the wrong drivers, but I'm sticking with him this season, so let's hope he serves me well. Of course, we have a fantasy game between the drivers as well, so that's always good to know that things happen. But you were mentioning Nepidius earlier, and of course we have points for the top 12 here in One Hub Racing, and of course the fastest lap points in and outside the top 10, so you never really stop trying to get points in this league, and every corner, every position and every point really matters to these drivers. the top 12 score points, as I mentioned, and we have 13 runners, and Confessor's a little bit off the track there as I say that, but he's just getting out of the way of the leader there, so that's going to take it all back. But Nepidius is in the final points playing position at the moment. He's got a bit of a healthy advantage over the Confessor, but any issues, the Confessor's going to be right back in this. And of course you have people that need to stop twice. Of course we have mandatory 2 stops, which you can see if I select the right thing, with the top 4 need to stop again. So the net leader is actually Owen White at this point. This is fantastic for him and fantastic for the league, but I'm pretty sure that Sly Guy will pit at some point and still maintain the advantage at the front. He seems to have pretty much all his own way today.
Yeah, I believe it is Silly who's in the net lead because of the Confessor. He goes for another spin, and
no,
these guys really don't listen to me.
They don't. I think you'll be giving them a pep talk before the race next week.
Sector 1 as well. I do believe that maybe Tom Robbo. Yes, it is. He's off on the exit at turn 3. Very unfortunate. I do believe that may have been on the exit curve of turn 2.
Yeah,
but
it
yeah,
looks
very
similar.
Unfortunate for Tom Robbo and the Confessor. I do believe Tom Robbo has no front wing once again, which is so unfortunate for him. Arnold and Toma, in the meanwhile, are having a little battle of their own, as Toma takes the outside line, defends heavily to the inside very early on, and he is derating at the moment. So just looking at Arnold's ERS at the moment, he's got 30%. Toma's flicking between 9 and 10, which, with 7 laps left, you got to say Arnold is gonna give Toma a run for his money here and potentially get past him on this pit straight here.
Yes, it looks like he's going to get the move done. He's either faking going in, but he's gone with him so he can try and get a maximum tower. He's just going to breeze past. I don't think he even needs DRS for that move, but he's got it anyway. But he breezes into P9, does Arnold, and that is a good bit of driving there. And as you say, the ERS is going to be key for the final few laps as well. And to have so little left with so long to go in the race is a little bit worrying for some of these drivers. But of course, you've got drivers out front who probably haven't even touched ERS. Like, there you go. You got Sly Guy who's on about 70%, so he's not even using his right now. He doesn't need it.
Nevsky as well, who's on 80%, and Henry ahead of him, who's on about 55.
Yeah, that's fantastic to see. Maybe they're going to give some of the spare energy down to the lower order, just to see what they can do with it, because they're not using it. They don't need it today. Let's just Confessor gets nicely out the way, which is always good to see, and I hope he doesn't get unfairly punished by the game, because sometimes you see a car getting out the way for the leaders and they get unfair penalties. But at this stage, Confessor doesn't have one of those, but he's still in a little bit of a fight for the final point. He's a lot closer than he was due to Tom Robbo's issues with keeping the front wing on the car today. So that last point is coming down to the last lap. I can see it coming, and Sly Guy's just slotted in P3. You've got 2 drivers ahead of him that need to pit again, but this is, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing who wins this race, and I think Nevsky and Owen White are definitely on for at least a podium, and this could be a huge result today.
Yeah, definitely. Owen White he does have the 3-second time penalty, which we'll keep on going on about, but he's currently got a big enough gap where it won't actually affect his finishing position. As just looking at Silly, he's already nearly within DRS range of Zhang, and he pitted how long ago? He pitted maybe 2-3 laps ago, and he's already within DRS range of Zane, and Zane's in P2.
Yeah, that's...
Silly's pace is unreal. It's just... We need to check if he's actually human.
I don't think he is. He's got to have a bionic foot or something. I don't know. He's got a very heavy accelerator pedal, but sets the fastest lap of the race as he overtakes someone. That's got to be humiliating for Zane. Like, it's just... every time I look at Zane, he just seems to be being overtaken quite easily by drivers. And anyhow, yeah, it's not quite gone to plan for some of the drivers today. But Zane, of course, has a 5-second penalty, as was the Confessor, for speeding in the pit lane. But so it's not over yet. But of course, Zane will serve that when he stops again. If he doesn't, he will be removed from the result of this race, because it's a mandatory 2 stops, as we said at the top of the race on the formation lap. Just to remind them. So maybe if the drivers weren't listening before, they maybe should be listening now, so they don't get disqualified for having a great race come to nothing because they forgot to do the second stop, which unfortunately would not be the first time that it's happened in this tier.
Yeah, I think just looking at like the new drivers who come in, maybe they're not clued up on what the rules are here. Sometimes they can catch out a few people, as we've seen with readying up early being a main culprit, as well as not having the telemetry set to public. Confessor gets another penalty, this time being 3 seconds. He's on 8 seconds worth of penalties now, and I think that may be the race over for Confessor, unfortunately. But just looking up the grids, there's no real close battles going on apart from Arnold and Thomas. So yeah.
Yes, this does seem to have petered out a little bit, but Owen Wyatt has now gone back into P3 as Zane does actually pit, so I think he was listening, which makes me wonder why they weren't listening to you about those turns that you keep spinning at. But anyway, we've got that taken care of now, and the Pidgeys is on fresh soft tyres. He's going to try and have a run for fastest lap of the race, which you don't need me to tell you who that belongs to, so we will find out together at the end of the race. In and outside the top 10, of course, Confessor still has a shot for a point. Even though he's outside of the point, he could still get a point by having the fastest lap outside of the top 10. So that's always something to aim for drivers, which is, I think, one of the best things about this league is the competitive nature of every position mattering, and especially with the with the commentators that lose their voice in the middle of a race every week. It's always good to see that drivers never really give up, even if they are having a shocker or a nightmare, as what Confessor seems to be today. But let's just see what Zane can do on those fresh softs, because he could make a run for Konzo, who's on the mediums, so he could well be catching him in a few laps time, but there is only a few laps to go, so we'll keep an eye on that one. But at the moment, there's not much going on actually. Henry, has he stopped? No, he hasn't. So the net race leader is Sly Guy, and Iron White is in a net P2, which is a remarkable result, but you did call it earlier, to be honest, and Daystar's up in P5 as well.
Yeah, and just the only problem with White at the moment is that Netsky's 2.5 seconds behind him. And Owen White, with that 3-second time penalty, would see him drop down to P3 if it stays as it is, with Henry not pitting. But I imagine Henry will maybe pit, I'm not too sure. But yeah, just not really much happening on track at the moment. Just really trying to see if anyone is close. It is still Arnold and Tomer. It feels like a century they've been within half a second of each other.
Yes.
Yeah, Tomer's doing really well to keep Arnold behind him. Of course, we both know of Arnold's pace, and sometimes Arnold's races can be inconsistent. As Henry finally comes into the pits, he has been listening.
He has.
Both Henry and Zane, they pit almost simultaneously, or one lap after the other. Maybe they're both listening. I'm not too sure, but Owen Wyatt is in P2 at the moment. City's in P1, but that was never really in any dispute. I thought that was City for the moment there, but no, it's Tom Robbo.
Yeah, Tom Robbo again's having an incident.
Confessor as well.
Oh dear.
Just going really slow around the straight.
Oh, I think he's just
he's...
Has he got a rear puncture? Because that just seems like a strange accident he's just had there. doesn't look like it. I think he's maybe burned his tyres out, and as he got going again, he's spun around again. But he's having an absolute nightmare right now. It happens to the best of us. You just brush this one off, I guess, and still finish, because you never know what's about to happen ahead of you. You could still get up. Oh, well, maybe not now. He's in the wall, but he's still got the wheels on the car. No, he's not. The rear wheel's fallen off. So if you finish, of course, you're going to get points today, which you never want to see a race end like that. But Red Bull's fortunes are not completely disgruntled, as you have Owen Wyatt in contention for a podium today. But it's probably going to be P3, as he is going to be probably caught by Netsky on track, but if not, he's got that penalty which will drop him below. But he's just got to make sure he can bridge the gap for the next lap and a half to Yachty Henry to keep that podium.
Yeah, just watching Henry at the moment, and he really just made light work of getting past Dainstar. And of course, Owen Wyatt and Dainstar from their starting positions of P12 and 13. They've both been fantastic, but Netsky does eventually get past Owen Wyatt, and Netsky does actually have the second dosage of DRS deployment. But just looking at how Owen Wyatt's and Dainstar's races have gone, you might as well just call me Mystic Quinn at this point. Call them out at the start of this race as they're two to watch out for. Lo and behold, one's in P3 and the other's in P5.
Yes, I think we will start calling that, because I remember you made a similar prediction in pre-season, of course, but of course that didn't really end up being a stream because we had technical issues that day. But I think if you do it next time you're in the box, I think that's going to be your new nickname. You're going to have to change the tag and everything. Mystic Quinn.
But Henry is just speeding off. He's just closing in, he's reeling in Owen Wyatt at the moment, and it's looking less likely. Yeah, it's looking more and more less likely. He needs to make up 1.4 seconds. Make that 1 point. It's nearly 1 second on Owen Wyatt.
Yeah.
The closing speed of Henry. He needs to get a move on, and so does Owen Wyatt. But of course, Owen Wyatt's getting the DRS advantage from Netsky, so he's got a little bit of a defence against it. But Henry, looking at the tyres that both of them are on, Henry's just 7 laps younger than Owen's, so everything's pointing towards Henry. But
yeah,
he needs to make up 9. Yeah, he needs to make up 8 tenths, 7 tenths now in just over half a lap.
The gap is falling.
Just under half a lap.
Yeah, the gap is definitely falling, and the tyres are definitely feeling it right now. But Owen Wyatt still just about has the DRS, so I think he may just be a little bit more protected down the straight. There's a yellow flag which is honoured. I think at this stage it's not going to be that important, but the real race here is, can Henry reel in Owen Wyatt? He's a tenth away. There's going to be drama in the final corner, but Sly Guy will come across the line to win the Bahrain Grand Prix, and Netsky takes a very good second place probably, but he's taking Owen Wyatt with him, and this is going to be close as Henry's just about at the line. It's going to be very, very close as they cross the line. I think Henry's just about going to do this. I think Owen Wyatt's tyres have just about gone, and can he do it? He's just taken it by 0.3 of a second. Owen Wyatt still solid performance. P4. Tom Rowe fastest lap of the race down there in wow, what a race.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great race.
It's not over yet, of course. We've still got Toma and Khalifa battling still, but Khalifa seems to have got away from it a little bit. There's a second between them. I think it's going to be, as you were there, Arnold's going to cross the line in P10, Napidius P11, and Tom Rowe's a lap down in P12. Of course, we lost the Confessor, Samba and Vienna. We lost Vienna, I think, lap 1, or very early on, and Samba a little bit after that, and Confessor not so long ago, but yeah, it's been an absolutely sensational race. A little bit quiet in periods, but when there was battles, they really took it hard. And that's McLaren that's just giving a little bit of a show off to the cameras.
Yeah, they believe Arnaud actually finished that race without a front wing.
Wow, driver of the day, Owen White. Why would you pit on the last lap?
Yeah.
Just because Lewis Hamilton can do it on 3 wheels doesn't mean everybody can, but clearly they can. But anyway. Oh, excuse me. As we wait for the finishing order to come in, we will think about drivers of the day. Whew.
I think both of us will have pretty much the same.
Possibly, yeah. There's definitely I seem to say this a lot in the box here in Pinnacle here, but there's quite a few contenders, and I think people think I'm just saying it for the sake of it, but I'm generally not. Anyway, I'll do the results very quickly while we have time. We have Sly Guy wins from Netski, Henry, Owen, Dane Star, Zane, Konzo, Khalifa, Toma, Arnold in 10th, Napidius, and Tom Rowell with the final 2 points of the day. Fastest lap inside the top 10 would be, I think, the race winner. Yeah, just about the race winner there by a 10th, so that's another maximum point for Sly Guy as well. He's a machine, and unfortunately, as we mentioned, Confessor, Samba and Vienna ended up in a wall somewhere, through no fault of their own, presumably. But now I'm going to let you nominate the first driver of the day, and what is your question you would like to put to them?
I'll have to say it's one of the drivers I mentioned right at the start. It has to be Dane Star. Just his race along with Owen Wyatt's was incredible. My question to him is before the race even started, before the race even started, what were you thinking going into it? Did you think that you were going to be in the position you finished in?
That's a very good pick and a very good question. I'm leaning towards similar lines. I don't want to give it too much away, but I'm just having a double check. Some people outside, also Konzo started outside the top 10, so shout out to him. He's had a pretty quiet day when all considered. He had a bit of an adventure early on in the race, but he managed to recover and gain 7 positions. But I think I'm going to have to go with the other driver you called out at the start of the race, and Owen White. I'm going to have a similar question. Did you think, after starting outside the top 10 in P13, did you think that the strategy you were on would have you fighting for a podium today? So that is the questions, and that is all the drivers classified for now, and hopefully there's no incidents that need to be reported to the stewards. They had a horrendous week last week, so let's hope they get a bit of a week off, but I'm going to end the stream very shortly. But before I do that, I would just like to take one final moment to thank our partners and sponsors here in One Hub Racing. I will start with the partners as Vespertine, who support our championship prizes, and you have ERT Go and Get Stuff Award, which, as we mentioned earlier, we have the Go and Get Stuff Award for all the drivers to take part in. They're automatically eligible by just showing up to race and answering all their media obligations, and if you still do that at the end of the season, I think if there's multiple drivers, they will be all put into a draw to see who wins the Go and Get Stuff Award, sponsored by ERT. So thank you to our partners, they do sensational work here. And I will now move quickly to our sponsors, who are Next Level Racing, who will be providing an Next Level Racing direct drive stand to the driver of the season, which is a new award. And we have 3M Sim Racing, who will be providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. So at the moment, that's looking like Silly Sly Guy. He's done it twice now. I think he was in pole, fastest lap of the race. Last week definitely was this, so he's definitely leading some category down there. But it's been an absolute pleasure to bring this race to everyone today. Have you got any final thoughts before we end the stream?
Pardon?
I'm just saying. Yeah, sorry. Have you got any final thoughts before we end the stream about the race we've just watched?
Nothing really. Just at the end, just looking through. I do believe this season is the first podiums for. I believe it was first podiums for Henry and Netski this season. So of course we've only had 2 races, but first podiums for Netski and Henry, so congratulations for them. And no real shock that it's 2 races, 2 wins for Silly.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. That is the first podium there for Henry, and it could have been the first podium of his return to Owen Wyatt, but he just missed out by less than half a second. I think 1 less lap tyres he would have done it, but I think he'll still be pleased with P4. But I think I will stop rambling now and let everyone enjoy what's left of their Friday night, and thank you for joining us here at One Hub Racing. We will see you next week around Hungary, so we'll see you then.